We are live. Let's talk about CSS position concepts today. Something called position, where we can basically put something wherever we want. However, before I start this demo, I want you guys to all promise me this though. You will only use position when it's absolutely necessary and there's no other way to make it work. It's like a last resort. Can you guys promise me that? Because it is not meant to be used. Do not abuse position. This is my instructor lecture notes, but yeah, do not abuse position. I want to make sure you guys promise me that. Promise? Okay, good. Thank you, Javars. So do not abuse position. Position, literally, the only time I want you to use position for any of your assignments is literally just to move this profile picture across these two divs, this blue div and the white div, in order to break the plane. That's the only reason you're going to need position for this whole assignment. Everything else you can do with everything we learned so far. For profile page, this assignment, core assignment, same thing. It's the only time you're going to need position is just for this profile picture to break the plane of these, the blue div and the white div, so that you can make it go across two divs. Okay. For these next couple assignments. Now for some other assignments in the future, yeah, for ads, we're gonna need something like that. Great, good reminder. So if you're gonna have a cookie box, no, that's not it. For this assignment, you're gonna need position for the cookie box, because have you ever gone onto a website and the cookie box just follows you around? I wonder if NBA.com. Someone give me some cookies. Okay, well, you know when you scroll, like that box will like follow you around with the scroll. That's another use case for cookie box. And we're gonna do an example of the cookie box and the profile picture moving down in this demo while building out a Facebook profile picture. Okay, so we're gonna do that. So let's take a look at what we're trying to build here. This is for next week. So don't worry about that yet. So we're going to be in the CSS position page. And first, well, we already talked about CSS resets. You guys already know about CSS resets. Pop quiz. Why would you want a CSS reset?
Because not all browsers are built equal.
That's true. Exactly. There's default styling that's different between different browsers. So if you want to standardize that, the margin and padding of elements in different browsers, use CSS reset. We've been doing CSS reset for the past 2 days, so we're a little bit ahead of this already. Then I'm going to include the CSS reset in our demo. So let's take a look at what we're going to build. We're going to build a Facebook profile for Jacob, and Jacob's going to be like a superstar. Jacob's going to have 20,000 friends, and Nicholas, or the picture, Nicholas, is this you? Okay, cool. So Nicholas is going to be the one of the friends of Jacob, and they're going to have multiple friends. So let's see what we're going to be building. I have created a folder called Position Lecture, Facebook clone Thursday. It's a long folder name, but that's what I named it. And if all I have inside of it is this Facebook wireframe. This is a screenshot that I took from my profile. So we're going to be building this. And we're also going to add some content at the bottom here, and then I'm going to add a cookie box too. But so it's not going to be exactly Facebook, but it's going to be for the most part Facebook. Right? This is a screenshot of Facebook from yesterday. So the most recent version of Facebook profile picture that you can find. And this will cover the profile picture crossing the plane of two different divs. Okay, here's the div with an image here, and here's something here as well. Cool. So this is what we're going to be building out, except we're going to have Jacob's picture here, because I'll feel kind of narcissistic just like doing a profile picture of me during the demo. So I'm not going to do that. But I do like this cover photo. So I have this cover photo ready. This is my cover photo. It shows that it's an iteration of Tupac's poem, "The Rose That Grew from a Crack in Concrete." But this is like a whole tree that grew from a crack in concrete. So We're gonna do that. That's my cover photo. Where is my cover photo? So I made this yesterday. Let me just go ahead and put it somewhere else so I can drag that picture. Okay, so I'm just going to drag this into our lecture. So this is going to be the cover photo. And if you want this cover photo, I can just reveal in Finder. If you want to follow along, I'm going to give you guys the zip of this. Compress, and I'll post it right here in the Discord. So that there's a folder with the cover photo and also the output that we were trying to go after. Okay, so we're going to be building this. All right, cool. So let's do it. In order to get started, let me get rid of this zip now. I'm going to need an HTML and a CSS file, and I'm going to do a sanity check. So right click, new file. Next .html, and then new file, style.css. Okay, cool. And then here's the wireframe that we're going to be building. Okay, let's just get started. Hashtag, am I recording? Okay, good. Let's call this like Facebook. I'm going to go ahead and do the sanity check, link : CSS. And then my style sheet, I'm just going to do body, background color, red. We'll definitely see if it works if we do that, right? Let's screen merge. And then for the HTML, I'm going to have to say open with live server. Okay, cool. Now let me get rid of this. All right, cool. Sanity check is good. We're ready to go. We know everything's connected. I don't want the background color to be red. Now let's break this down. In this wireframe, a little bit hard to see, but is it one background color or is it kind of transitioning? It's like a gradient. Yeah, this is called a gradient. And this gradient is going which direction? Is it going yeah, from top to bottom? Perfect. So it's starting out like kind of gray and then it's fading off into white. Okay. But so far we've only learned about background color for one thing, right? For one color, like background color red, right? That's just one color. So I'll show you guys how to do a gradient so that we can get this started off where we can have something like this. Okay. So if you open up a Google tab and search, linear gradient CSS. Go here. Okay. So this is just a basic linear gradient. You can tell it, you can use the property called background image. And then the value is going to be linear gradient. So it's going to be background image, linear gradient, parentheses. And in here, we need to give it 3 pieces of information: direction that it needs to go, and the different colors that I want it to go when it goes that direction. So Brandon said we want it to go top down, right? So this is how you indicate that. You just literally write the word to right or to bottom or to left or to top. I don't even know if there's a to top, but we're gonna, oh, you can also do the degree. So if you do 90 degrees, it's gonna go to the right. If you do 180 degrees, it's gonna go down, and so on. Quick joke, I don't know if anyone knows Jason Kidd, but when he got hired as a coach or a player, he said, yeah, we're gonna turn this team 360 degrees around or something. We're gonna turn this team around 360 degrees. And someone's like, that's just being back where you're at because that's a whole circle. It's like, ah. But anyways, we're gonna go to the bottom. So we're gonna say to bottom. And you can just write the word to bottom. And it's kind of weird. And my text looks kind of weird coloring when I do that, but it works. And then I need to, let me just test it. Gray. And then the next, I need to separate the 3 values with the comma. White. Okay. Okay, if I save it, let's see if that works. Kind of, not really. The problem is it's doing it, it is kind of doing it. It is going from gray to white, but it's repeating multiple times because the body, I didn't give the body a height. So when you use the linear gradient, you got to give the body a height. If I want it to be 100% of the window, there's a couple options. I could just say 100% or 100 VH. So yeah, 100% didn't really give me what I wanted, but yeah, 100 VH. 100 VH means view height, viewport height. So if my window is this tall, you know, it's however tall my window is. If I click inspect, now the height of my window is smaller, right? Because all this space is taken up. So 100% is from here all the way to right here, 100 VH. But if I go like this, 100 VH is from here all the way to here. Cool. So that's linear gradient. You're gonna need VH for that. Percentage didn't work because percentages with height work a little bit funky. So I want you guys to avoid percentages with height for now, unless you really know what you're doing. So, okay, that's the body. We're on the right track. It's good enough. Maybe I wanted to go, I can give it multiple values too. I can say red. Now it goes like from gray to white to red. But if I want more white here, so now it'll start the white a little bit quicker. Because if I only have gray and white, the gray goes all the way, you know, deeper down. If I do gray, white, white, those kind of stop right here. Kind of halfway through. Kind of what we want. So perfect. Okay, cool. Let's do this here. I'm gonna word wrap. Okay. And also, in order to make sure that our app looks the same on Mozilla Firefox, Google Chrome, and Safari, what do we need? Yeah, the CSS reset. The wildcard, yeah, wildcard with the CSS reset. Yep, perfect. So margin 0, you can say 0 pixels or this is 0. If it's 0, it's just gonna be 0. Margin and padding 0. And also one thing that I like to do is border or box sizing, border box. That just makes it so if I say something is 500 pixels, it's going to be 500 pixels. Even if I add padding, it's going to be staying at 500 pixels. So I don't have to do any math. Okay, cool. Awesome. Now let's talk about how can we get, oh, where did my picture go? Okay. How can we get this, this image? So we can actually break this down into boxes. When you get a wireframe, you want to try to break it down into boxes. So when you get an assignment, you want to break it down into boxes. I'm going to use my drawing tool to break it down into a box. So you can actually think of this whole thing right here as a box. Even though there's no color on this bottom part, right? It doesn't look like, it looks like, what is a wireframe? A wireframe is just a example of what you need to build. Like the goal that you want to get to. So in your assignments, you know how they give you like a drawing of what you need to build? It's that, basically. thing. So wireframe in this case, for the user card, this is the wireframe. This is what you need to build. This is your wireframe. Okay. Let's go back here. Okay, so this is our box. So we can baby step it because this is too big of a problem to tackle all at once. We want to baby step it. Can we get a red box centered on this body? If we can do that, we're on the right track. And then after we do that, I'm going to be like, okay, then can we get inside of that red box this image? So maybe I'll have a div with a background URL or something. In your assignment, you could just have a div and it doesn't need to have a background image. You could just have a div that's the color aqua or something. Right? So I'm doing something that's gonna be more difficult in the assignment here. And then our next baby step would be to try to get this circle. Well, we're gonna work with that, but let's take some baby steps. Let's get the red box working where we have a box that is centered horizontally. So here and here, it's horizontally centered. There's a couple of ways to do this. There's multiple ways to do this. So let's go ahead and do that. Uh-oh, that's not what I wanted. Okay, so here, in order to have a box, I'm gonna call it container. Div ID container. That's going to be the whole, like that red box that we drew earlier. Okay. And right now it has nothing in it, but let's just see if we can get it to show up. Hashtag container. Height, let's just do 100% of the parents, and the parent is 100 VH. So the container is going to be 100%. So just because I gave it a height of 100% doesn't mean I'm going to see it. So let me give it border 2 pixels solid red. So now it's kind of hard to see. Let's do 6 pixels. Now you can see the red border, but notice it's not going to go the whole width of the parents, right? The parent is the body. It's not going to go the whole width. It's skinnier than the parents in width. So I could use pixels for width, or I could use percentages. Let's say I do 300 pixels. I'm just going to test it out. 300 pixels, that's too skinny, right? So let's do 600 pixels. Let's do 800 pixels. At 1000 pixels, fine. All right, cool. So we got this box. How come my page has a scroll included, goes down really far, doesn't stop at the bottom? I'm not sure, Robert. I'll have to take a look at that later. But okay, so we have this container. Now we want this red box to, the red box is basically everything all the way down here. But we want this red box to be centered horizontally. There's a couple of ways to do that. You could give the body display flex. And then justify content center. Now it's centered. Right, that's one way to do it. Or another way to do it, because remember, I targeted the body because if I want to align this, I want to find its parent, it's the body, and I could do display flex. I could do that just to center one thing. Or another thing you can do is, if I didn't do display flex on here, comment it out. On the container itself, which is the red box, I can give it margin 0 for up and down, and then auto for left and right. So remember, the first value is top down, and the second value is left, right. So if I give it two values, that is. So margin 0 auto means 0 margin on the top and bottom of the red box. So it's touching the edges. But auto, so automatically calculate it for the left and right to make it even. So it's automatically going to calculate the left and right. So now no matter what I do, it's going to center this box. So that's another way to center a div inside of its container. So I'm centering this particular container div inside of the body. Okay, cool. Now let's do this. Let's go ahead and put this. We can have a div for this. My drawing tool. This can be a div. And to this, there's a couple ways I can do this. I could put an image inside of this div and make the image the same size as the div, or I could make it the background URL. I'll show you guys the background URL way. So let's go ahead and create a div. We can call this the cover photo. We can call it cover photo. Let's do cover photo. Okay. Drawing tool, go away. Okay, all. So inside the container, I'm going to create a div with the ID of cover photo. Right now, we're not going to see this div, but let me just make this div show up. Hashtag cover photo. Height. So if the container's height is like this much, let's do, I don't know, what percent of the height is the cover photo taking, do you guys think? More than 50 or less than 50? I'm thinking more than 50 here. Right? Maybe about 60% of the height. Or you could also just use pixels, like 500 pixels. But I'm not going to see it yet. Let me give it a border of 3 pixels solid pink. Okay, there it is. Hard to see. Okay, it's going over here. And I don't want to use percentages because it can cause some issues for beginners. So I'm going to use pixels to make things easier. We're not doing responsive yet. So let's do 500 is too little. Let's do about, 600 pixels. 700 pixels. 700 looks good to me. Okay, we're going to make the cover photo fit in this black box. So I could just put an image tag in here and then size the image to fit into this box. Or I can also apply an image from the CSS itself. For the div called cover photo, I can say background and then URL. And then I need to give it a string. And then I need to find the name of my file. Okay, let's do /. Yeah, I can do /. And then it's tree roots. That's the one that we have. Perfect. But not quite perfect yet, but we got the cover photo here. I'm going to get rid of the border now. But notice the cover photo is too small to fully cover everything. So one thing that we can do to the cover photo is we can say it needs to cover or contain. You can also do contain. Height. So this is linking a picture to be the background of this div, and then I can say background size. Background size. Contain. Okay, let's do cover. Okay, cool. That makes sense, like cover photo, cover hat. Okay, so cover is gonna make it fully cover this div. Perfect. Now we got a cover photo. And I'm gonna make this red box like smaller border. Okay, cool. We're on the right track here. We're on the right track. Okay, right? It's not going to be exactly this, but okay. So based on what we have here, we got the cover photo, and then we're going to take a look at this border radius. What do you notice about the border radius? It's kind of smooth here, right? Smoothened out right here. But for the top, it's sharp. Well, let's get on to the nitty-gritty of that. If I just do border radius, like 10 pixels, and let me get rid of this red border, it's going to give me the border radius on the top and bottom. I just want the border radius on the bottom. So you can actually say border radius in certain values. I actually forgot. It was like, you can give 4 values. I forgot the order though. It's border on one side. Okay, cool. Oh, you can do border top right radius too. Is there a shorthand way? There's got to be a shorthand way. There's a shorthand way too. Yeah, so if I could do 4 different values and it will show me, yeah, top left, top right, bottom left. So I need to give it 0 and 0 for the top. And then for the bottom right and bottom left, I'll give it some values. So I'll say 0 pixels, 0 pixels. And then bottom right, let's do 10 pixels, and bottom left, 10 pixels. If I save that, okay, cool. Now it's sharp at the top. It's kind of hard to see, but a sharp radius at the top, but curved at the bottom. If I wanted to, Facebook doesn't have this, but box shadow, this would look really cool if Facebook did that. 3 pixel, 3 pixel, 3 pixel, black. 20 pixel. Right, this would look pretty cool, but Facebook doesn't have that. So maybe one of us will work there and suggest that. Okay, cool. All right, cool. We're on the right track here. Don't worry about the width not being exactly like the wireframe. We're not doing responsive design yet, right? If I wanted to give this width, if I wanted to make this width responsive, I would, instead of giving the width 1000 pixels, I would say, I would think in terms of percentages. I would ask, okay, what percentage of the width is this cover photo taking of the body? Of the body, if the body is 100%, what percentage do you think? $60 or $70? Yeah. So in that case, I could say, you know, like 70%. And then whatever my screen width is, then it's going to start to look more like Facebook in terms of the width, okay? But I don't want you guys to focus on being responsive design yet unless you're advanced. I want you to just focus on pixels and just getting it to work on a set width. And then after you pass your exam, I want you to, you know, I want you to take it up the next level and be responsive. Okay, does that make sense? So play around with percentages if you start getting more comfortable with it, but you could use pixels on a set width for now, okay? So I'll just use 70% though, just to do that. Actually, no, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna stick to what I said. I'm gonna do, yeah. Okay, cool. I'm gonna do pixels because I want you guys to focus on pixels for now until you're comfortable to do percentages. Cool, I'm gonna get rid of box shadow. Okay, so now let's think about what we need next. Next, we need this profile picture and this button. Okay, I don't have the icons for the buttons, so I'm not gonna put those icons in yet, but I'll show you guys how we can put the button here and then the edit cover photo button. Okay, let's get the edit cover photo button, and it's gonna be inside of this cover photo div. As you can see, it's inside of the cover photo div, but it's on the bottom right. couple ways we can do this. If I just have a button here that says edit cover photo, it shows up at the top left by default. So if I wanted to not show up at the top left, let me just refresh it. Hold on, I think I'm messing up my aspect ratio here. Hold on, right click, open with live server. Okay, cool. So if I want this button to show up at the bottom, there's a couple ways I could do that. This button is located inside of cover photo. This button is a child to cover photo. So I'm going to locate the parent. I could do display flex on the cover photo. And then it's going to stretch it, but then I can say align items. Well, no, flex. Yeah, I can do align items. Flex, and this is horizontal, so I can make it go to the bottom. And then I can say justify content, flex end, and then this is going to go to the right. That's one way I could do it. And then the cover photo is there. And then I can give, what can I do to create some cushion right here on the cover photo? Padding, yep. Hey, Kevin, yeah, you got it. Flex, yeah. Display flex, and then so it's display flex. You combine two correct answers in one. So display flex in order to activate the flex box rules, and then in order to move it horizontally, it's justify content, flex end. So justify content, flex end will just move it horizontally, but it stretches the thing, the button. The button is stretched. And then if I do align items, flex end, that's gonna take it to the bottom. If I do flex start, it's gonna take it to the top. So that's one way to do it. Okay, and then we can do some padding on the cover photo. And it looks like, do we need padding on all sides? Maybe just padding on the right and on the bottom. And maybe the right has a little bit more padding. So padding right, let's do 20 pixels. And then padding bottom, 15 pixels. You know, something like that. That's one way to do it. And yeah, that's one way to do it. And then I can make this button look prettier. This button has some padding itself because, you know, the words aren't touching the edges. On ours, the words are touching the edges of the button. So I can give this button some padding. I can target the button that is inside of cover photo. I could give this an ID, or I could, if I don't want to give it an ID, I could also say, select the button, select any button that is a direct child of cover photo. A great question about the percentages with and how to add padding and expand the size of the parent. Do you have this CSS reset for the box sizing border box? That's going to make it so that even if you add padding, it's not going to expand the parent. Okay, so that was me answering a question in the chat. So what was I doing again? Oh yeah, button. So I can target the button that is inside of cover photo. I want to target a button that's a direct child of cover photo. So I can say hashtag cover photo button. That's one thing I can do. And then I can just give it padding. Let's just do 10 pixels. That's a little bit too much. 8 pixels. Okay, cool. Edit cover photo. Cool. At the end, can someone remind me how to download custom fonts from Google? I had a question about that yesterday, so someone remind me to add custom fonts to this later, okay? So cool, we got the edit cover photo here. And I don't have the logo for this camera, so I'm not going to do that yet. But okay, now let's do the profile picture. Maybe the button, the word is kind of bold though. So let's go ahead and say font. This is how you make something bold. And I can actually go up to 800. 800 is the most bold. If I just, yeah, actually no, 900 is the most bold. So I can say 700. Cool. Okay, any questions on the cover photo before we get to the profile picture? Yes, Brandon, you have a question?
Yeah, so when you're doing, so like if you do the margin for the button, wouldn't it do the same thing as like the padding on header image, or sorry, for cover photo?
Yeah, great catch. So if I get rid of the padding, the button's touching the edges, but then I would need to do margin right and margin bottom on the button of these same values. I can actually just copy this and go here and change this from padding to margin. And that would also do the same thing. Yeah.
So when do you use margin versus padding, or is it just preference?
It's interchangeable, but let's say you have a bunch of elements that are going to be here that are going to be respecting this amount of space. What would you rather do in that case? Would you rather just give padding to the container, or would you rather do margins to every single element?
If we want to like space it out evenly and all that stuff.
Yeah, like let's say you had more buttons that need to be here. There's a button that needs to be here, another button that needs to be here, but they all needed to respect this much space. So
Padding, right?
yeah, padding, because then you can
Okay.
apply padding to the container and all the buttons would just fall in place in the right place, instead of having to give every button the same margin, you know. And then I'd have to have a button here that needs a margin left. Yeah, dry stands for don't repeat yourself. So yeah, then you could just do that with the padding. Great question. I'm gonna go, in this case, it doesn't matter because there's only one button. So I guess that in that case, you can choose. Okay, cool. Let's do the profile picture. So now we have the profile picture. So this is where we're going to talk about position. So in the cover, I'm actually going to put the profile picture in the cover photo. So I'm going to do image, and then I'm going to right click on Jacob's image, copy link. And then I'm going to paste that link. Okay. We can see Jacob's married, right? But this picture is way too big to fit in this div. So let's just go ahead and scale this picture down. So I'm gonna give this image, I could give it an ID, or I could just target any image that's a child of cover photo. A couple ways I could do that. So hashtag cover photo. This is saying target any image that's a direct child of the div cover photo. Let's just scale this down here. 150 pixels. Okay, cool. Perfect. Okay. But I don't want the image on this side. I wanted it, so this image, I want it on this side. But this container, this cover photo container, I said display flex, and then flex end and justify content end. If I get rid of those, then everything shows up at the top. If I get rid of display flex, it shows up like this. This is what it looks like by default. So what I can do, there's a couple things I can do. I have multiple elements now. I have multiple children inside of this cover photo div, button and image. Maybe I would probably want the image first. And you'll see why. Because then I could do display flex and I can horizontally align them like justify content. What would be good for that? Space between. Justify content, space between. Okay, let's do that. So display flex. So I wanted the image before the button because I want the image on the left side and the button on the right side. That's why I put the image here and then the button here. I switched it. So I had to actually switch the order. And then horizontally, let's do horizontal first. Justify content. If I do flex end, they're both going to move to the end, but I don't want them flex end. What's a good option for this? So that this image is on the far left. And perfect, space between. So justify content, space between. Cool. And then I want to move them both down. That's up and down. That's vertical. Align items. Right? Align my spine. I stand up straight. I sit up straight. I am tall. Taller than I'm like 5'5". I'm like I'm like really short. But here we go. Let's go back to positive things. Let's go to align items, and I can say yeah, flex end. Get them both at the bottom. Perfect. Okay, we're a little bit closer. We're a little bit closer. Would you say that there is? I could do a padding left right here if I want to. But okay, this picture, let's make it circle first before we do anything. So this image, how do I make something a complete circle?
Is that radius 100%?
Yeah, border radius, and it would be 50%. Yeah, but close. Yep. Cool. Okay. Let's make it a perfect circle by also giving it a width of 150. Okay, cool. It's perfect circle now. Now this image though, I want to show you guys how to do something similar to this, where you see how there's like around the image, there's like some padding and a border. Let's say we wanted to do something like that, because in Facebook, we also have, notice how around the image, there's some padding, or like there's some blue outline that's for like the story. There's some white space right there. So we could do something like that. I think I can just give an image a border, 2 pixel, solid, white. Okay. And this is what it looks like if you haven't uploaded a story. If you have uploaded a story, I think you would do double border. Let's do 4 pixel. And then the background color, blue. I know this looks like some wizardry, but okay. So I try to make this. Let's take a pause and see what we just did. For border, we've been used to doing like 1 pixel solid, right? There's other options. There's also double. So this will give you a double border of white. I got a double border of white. But then this part right here, that's between the 2 double borders, is just going to be the background image. I don't know if you can see that. Right? But if I want I can give a color, background color to that image. So it's not going to use this cover photo's background. It's just going to use the blue color as a background right here. Okay. Let's do 6 pixels. Okay, that looks better. Good. Okay, we're on the right track, but now this is where, so we haven't used position yet to do all this, have we? Position is meant to be like some slight seasoning, just some salts that you just sprinkle, right? Just to taste. It's not going to be the main ingredient. Okay, if you do make it the main ingredient, you're going to run into a lot of issues. I can now use position to move this down across this particular plane. Now you might think, hey, I could just do margin top and increase the margin top by a lot, right? But that's like, let's say margin top 500 pixels. Okay, that didn't do anything. Let's do 5,000 pixels. That didn't do anything. Okay, yeah, margin top didn't do anything. So no matter how much margin I add, it didn't really do anything. So I can use something called position to make this circle move exactly where I want to. So let's talk about the first position concept. Well, there's position absolute. We're going to talk about that later. But let's talk about position fixed. I mean, not position fixed, position relative. Position relative means relative to where the element already is, where do I want to move it? So the element is this picture, this image, relative to where it currently is, where it's supposed to be, which is right here. Like what is on the screen, relative to where its current position, which direction do I want to move it? I want to move it down. Good. So to this image, I'm going to say position relative. It's not going to do anything yet, but I want to move it south or down, right? So if I want to move it down, it's a little confusing in the beginning. There's a couple options: top, down, or no, bottom, top, and bottom, right? If I say bottom by 50 pixels, this is actually going to do the opposite of what we think. It's actually saying from the bottom, move up 20 pixels. Move 20 pixels from the bottom. That's what it's saying. It's not saying move to the bottom 50 pixels. So you actually have to do the opposite. If you want it to move down, you got to say top. So from wherever it, relative to where it was, move it from the top 50 pixels down. Or yeah, you could also do negative on down. Yeah, that's yeah, you could do negative. Yeah, that works too. No, not down, bottom. Yeah, you can do that too. Good. But if I wanted to do positive numbers, I would say top. So from the top, move it 20 pixels. So from the relative to where it was, from its top, move it down, move the top down 20 pixels. Think of it this way. Move the top down 20 pixels. So for Facebook, it looks like we need a little bit more. We want this all the way over here. Okay. If you want it exactly halfway, like in your user card assignment, it's halfway. Well, if the image is 100 pixels in height, in order to move it halfway, I'll just say 50 pixels. Okay, but for Facebook, it's not halfway. It's more than halfway. It's like probably 80% of the way. So let's go here. So the height is 150 pixels. So like, let's do 100 pixels from the top. Let's do 120. Okay, that's good enough for me. And now where else, which other direction do we need to move this picture? To the right. So if I want to move it to the right, I could say from its left, move its left, from its left, move away. So that's like the opposite, unless you could do right and do negative, but I'm gonna say left and let's say 50 pixels. Okay, cool. So that's it. That's all I'm gonna use position for this whole. So that's position relative. Great question, Giovanni. I'll show you for if you scroll down. Right now, it's sticking right on the div. Is relative means relative to its parent. Or relative to where it originally was. So if I get rid of this and this, so it originally was here, and relative to this particular location, where do I want to move it? That's what position relative means. Position relative means relative to where it originally was, how much do I want to shift it? From the top, I want to move away 120 pixels, and from the left, I want to move away 50 pixels. Now let's talk about position absolute. That's the other position property that is in the curriculum today. There's more position properties, but we're just covering 3 today. Position absolute. Absolute means according to the doesn't show anything here, but position absolute means based on the viewport. So let me talk about what that means. If I say if I change this to position absolute, this is saying, like, if I don't have top and bottom, it's going to go back to where it was. But if I say position absolute, it's saying from the top left of the viewport. If I say 0 pixels and 0 pixels, so absolute means based on the whole viewport. Viewport is the whole window. And this will still be right here based on the top left of the window. So position absolute means from the top left of the window, how do I want to move it? Position relative means based on where it originally was, how much do I want to move it? Great question, Simon. Great question. I like that question. So if I do position absolute, it moves the button back in here, right? Because when you do position absolute, it will actually move the elements out of the regular document flow. It's almost as if this element is not in this div at all. And if this element is not in this div, and I do display flex, it's almost as if this image is not in this div. So it's almost as if this div only has the button. And if I'm doing display flex, justify content space between, there's nothing to space between the button and something else. Now the button is the thing that's going to be on the left, but it's still doing the flex end, so it's at the bottom. So it actually removes this. If I have position absolute, it'll remove this image from the normal document flow. What that means is it'll pretend like this image is not in this div anymore. So when I'm displaying flex on this cover photo, there's only a button. It only sees a button. Did that answer your question, Simon? Okay, cool. And once again, use position very sparingly. For your assignment, you don't even need position absolute. You're going to use position relative. So you're going to try to get it as close to where you want it without using position. And then you're going to use position to make it where you want it. Correct, Sean. Yep. You're only going to understand 50% of this. You're going to get more out of it after doing the assignment. So, okay, relative means relative to where it was. How do I want to move it? Absolute means based on the top left portion of the screen. How do I want to move it? Okay, cool. And then we're going to talk about the cookie box, which is going to be position fixed. We're going to talk about that at the end, okay? So we're going to have a cookie box that's going to follow us as we scroll. But we're going to do that at the end. But for now, we covered 2 of the position properties. There we go. That's our lessons for the day. Let's finish building this out just for fun. Okay, so we got the body here. Maybe I can make this a div. So that's the profile pic. So maybe I can have a div called info. That's going to be this div right here. Let me draw that out. So maybe this part right here will be a div called info. And then I'll have a nav bar. This will be a div called nav bar. And then we'll be done, okay? How much? Yeah, okay, cool. And we should be done in about 30-ish minutes, hopefully. And then you guys have open lab for the rest of the day, because then we covered everything we need. Okay. So let me get my drawing tool out of the way. Okay, so I'm going to have inside of the container, right underneath the cover photo, in the next line. So after the cover photo is done, right after the cover photo is done, I want a div right here. Let's call this div dot, sorry, excuse me, div ID info. Cool. And it's just a div, and let me just go ahead and style it so we can see it. Hashtag info. Height, I don't know, let's do 300 pixels. We're not going to see anything yet. Border, 1 pixel, solid, black. Okay, we're going to see it now. Perfect. We don't really need a border according to this wireframe, though. There's no border, but just wanted to put it in a div. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not in a div, right? But I'm going to have the border just to help me with development purposes, just so I can see the boundaries. Now, yeah, we're going to do Jacob. Right, we're going to do Jacob Green right here. So we're going to do, and this is a profile pic. The main headline of this page is the name of the person. So I'm going to give it an H1. You could also do it H2, really depends. Okay, cool. And it shows up right here because this picture wasn't even supposed to be here in the first place, right? We used position to force it to be here. So this text doesn't know that this picture is taken over. So what I can do, how can I push all this text so that there's a bunch of cushion from here to here? Padding, good, Giovanni. Yeah, there you go. Padding on the left side. Okay. And then let me just kind of measure it out here. 100 pixels. Almost there. 200 pixels. Let's do 210. Now, is this going to break if I do this? Actually, it's not. Okay, fine, never mind. But it's okay if you just have it working on one fixed width until you pass your exam, okay? And then we're going to talk about responsive design. Okay, cool. So we got Jacob Green right here. What else do we need? Padding on the top. Padding on the top. I know I could do a shorthand way, but I'm just going to do this for readability purposes for beginners. Let's do 30 pixels. That's good enough. And then right underneath that, I'm going to have a paragraph tag. Says, Jacob, you're going to have 1 million friends. Okay, cool. Cool. Now we know we should get that verified check mark for Jacob's profile now, right? This is kind of like gray font. So let's go ahead and make this gray. So to target, but not everything inside of info is gray font. So I wanted to say this paragraph tag that is inside of info is going to be gray. So I can target the paragraph tag that is inside of info by saying, I could give this an ID and then target the ID, or I could just say, hey, give me the paragraph tag that is a direct child of info. Hashtag info, P, and then color gray. Font weight, I don't know. 600. That's gonna make it a little bit more bold. Okay, cool. What else do we need? probably some margin at the top. It's a little bit more separation. We could do some separation here. Is info P shorthand for info P? No, that's there's a difference between this and this. So this means select any paragraph tag that is anywhere inside of info, even if it's a grandchild or a great-grandchild or a great-great-grandchild. But this is saying only select a paragraph tag that is a direct child of info. Great question. Let's do margin top 5 pixels. Okay, moved it down a little bit. That was me being OCD. Okay, cool. You can barely even tell the difference. All right, cool. And then now this part, this part is going to be a little bit challenge right here. Okay, this part's going to be a challenge. And let's think about how we want this. So one way that I would break this down, if you think about flex, you could think of this as a row, okay? And then I can have a box right here and a box right here. So maybe this whole thing, I can create a div called row. In the left box, I can call it row left. In the right box, I can call it row right. And what can I do to make them look like this? Display flex. And then I'm going to space between. Okay, let's just get, before we try to get fancy, let's just get a pink box with 2 smaller boxes inside of it that are spaced between, and then we can work with that. Okay, so let me go here. Yeah, I think this is overkill for your assignment. Your assignment's not as complicated as this, but hey, hopefully this is educational. So it's still going to be inside of the info div, which is this div with the border. Notice I kept the border here for development purposes, just to help me. I'm going to create a div called row, #row. And that's going to be containing all of this. So it's going to have all that. This whole thing will be row. And then I'm going to have a row left and a row right. Okay. Div #row left. Well, before I even do row left and row right, let me just get row to show up. Baby steps. Let's just get row to show up. I'm not even get, it's just a #row border 1 pixel solid red. Let's make it a different color. Okay, it has no height basically, so we see it right here, barely because of the border. Height, let's just give it a height right now of, I don't know, 100 pixels. That's a lot, but it's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect, but here's my row. And on the row left and row right, I'll have 2 sides. So div row left, and then div with the ID of row right. So let me get row left and row right styled. #row. If I want to style multiple elements, like the row left and row right, I can use a comma and say border 1 pixel solid purple. We're not going to see them yet. And then height, let's do, I don't know, 80 pixels, something smaller than the height of the parents. I need a semicolon here. Okay, cool. And now they stack up on one on top of another, the 2 purple boxes. So I need to make them side by side. I need to make these 2 boxes be side by side. So I'm going to target which box? Okay, good, Giovanni. I'm going to do display flex on its parent row. Okay, good. So to the row, I'm going to say display flex. Okay, and when you do display flex, it kind of collapses their width a little bit if I don't give them width. So let me just do justify content, space between, and then align items, center. And they both don't have any width. Cancel. So this right now you can see they don't have a width. If I do display flex, so let's just give them a width. But notice how, because I have borders, it kind of helps me to see things. Like here's my thing right here, and here's the thing right here. Let's do width, I don't know, 100 pixels for now. I'm just gonna hard code it for now, but we're on the right track here. Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay. So we got the two different rows. I mean, we got the one row with the two different sides. And on row left, I'm gonna have these friends, the pictures of the friends. This is gonna be the most tricky part, because you're gonna have to make the circles squish, break the boundary of other circles. But for now, let's just make it so every circle is by itself. I'm gonna have a bunch of friends for all 1 million of Jacob's friends are gonna be Nicholas. So let's just go ahead and copy link. Row left, image. Okay, so let me just format so the image is, so any image inside of row left, I'm gonna format in a certain way. Hashtag row left, image, height 20 pixels. Let's do 30 pixels. 25. 25, okay. All right, cool. And then let's make it a square, so width 25 pixels. Okay, and let's make it a circle. Border radius 50%. Okay, cool. And then every image, I want it to be side by side. So let's go ahead and get a bunch of images in here. I'm just gonna copy this, copy, paste, 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 paste. Okay, cool. As you can see, images are already inline elements, so they'll share the space side by side. But then here it runs out of space because the width is small. So I can get rid of the width for, or I could probably even increase the width. Okay, cool. So we got these images. And now we can make these images squish into one another, where this breaks the plane of the other image. How can I make it break the plane of another boundary? What did we learn today? With this image, kind of like how this image is breaking the plane here. Position relative, perfect. Okay, cool. And this is a little bit tricky because I need a position relative for each one of these. And it's gonna be, I'm gonna give them different IDs. There's other ways to do this too. There's the Z index, that's a different advanced topic, but let me give it an ID. Friend 1. Friend 2. Let's see, friend 3, friend 4, friend 5. Friend 3, friend 4, friend 5. Okay, cool. So friend 1, we can have friend 1 just right here, but friend 2, I want friend 2 to move relative from where it currently is. I want to move it to the left. So I'm gonna target friend 2, hashtag friends 2, position relative, and then move it to the left. So to move it to the left, I'm gonna use right. So from its right, move away 10 pixels. Okay, cool, squishing. And then for friend 3, you might think I would just do that for all the pictures though, right? Like, why don't I just have it right here? Then this is actually gonna move all of them across the plane. Yeah, math won't let me, exactly, yeah, exactly, Cole. So I'm gonna have to do it for each one. Hashtag, let's do hashtag friend 3. I need to move friend 3 more than 10 pixels from where it originally was, because this one moved 10 pixels away. So I need to do 20 pixels. And I got to add 10 pixels each time. Exactly, Robert. You guys already got it. Good. Friend 4. And I could make this more dry though. Do you see some word that's repeating over and over again? Position relative over and over again, right? Well, if I want all images to be position relative, well, I don't want this one to be position relative though. Well, I could do it. Let's do position relative to all the images. So I don't have to say relative each and every one. And then I can get rid of this. Okay, cool. If I do a comma, Nicholas, no, then they're all going to have the same exact value. But notice they need to increase a little bit more because each one shifts to the left a little bit more. So the next one has to shift to the left even more. Then, like this one had to shift to the left maybe 10 pixels. So then this one had to shift to the left 20 pixels. Yeah. What did I do? Press the one button. Okay, cool. Okay, I think I can get rid of this border now. It's kind of ugly. So I'm gonna get rid of the border. I can get rid of this red border as well. Okay, cool. 1 million friends, and they're all the same person. They're all Nicholas. Cool. Nicholas is his best friend. So Bruce Lee said, "I fear not the man who has practiced a million kicks a million times, a million kicks one time each. I fear the man who has practiced one kick a million times." So that means they have a really good, strong friendship here. Okay. So best buddies for life. Get like water. All right. It's a bot. All right, cool. So row right, that's going to be right here. What do we need for that? We're going to need a button, 2 buttons, add to story and edit profile. Button, add to story, and then button, edit profile. Okay, cool. And then we can go ahead and style those buttons. One is the add to story button is gonna be blue. So they're gonna have unique styling here. So I'm just gonna give them IDs. Add to story, edit profile. So let's target this one. Add to story. Add to story is the blue one, right? Yeah. Add to story is the blue one. Hashtag add to story. Background color blue. So if I make it blue, the black font doesn't show up properly, but the font color white. Now it's good. But as you can see, there's some padding on the button. So padding 10 pixels. And you can also see that there's really no border. Like, right, mine has like this black border. It's kind of hard to see, but it has like a black border. By default, buttons come with some border. Let's just get rid of the border and give it a border radius though, so it's curved. So border, none. And then border radius, 10 pixels. That's a little bit too curved. Let's do 5 pixels. Good enough. Okay, let's also format at the other one. I could be more dry, but you know, I'm catering to a beginner group right now, so let me just go ahead and make this readable. Once you complete a bunch of projects, then you can start learning to refactor it better, but you want to start getting things to work. a lot, and then you can start refactoring more, okay? So edit profile, background color, gray, I think. That's too dark of a gray shade. It's lighter shade. Let's just go ahead and do something lighter here. Okay, and then border none. I'll give it the same padding. I'll basically give it all these other colors, all this other stuff. Okay, cool. Now let's talk about, now that we got it to work, now let's talk about drying this up. What similarities do the add to story button and edit profile button have in common? What code do they repeat? Oh yeah, these three, right? Perfect. Okay. So if I want to make this dry, I can say hashtag add to story, comma, hashtag edit profile. Both of them are going to have the same styling for padding, border radius, and so on. And then I can get rid of this. And the only difference between them, I'm going to put it individually for each one. So I'm going to say add to story is also going to have a background color of blue and a font color of white. And the edit profile is going to have some gray color. Cool. Let me take a look at the border for the row again. That's the row. Okay, we're almost done. Any questions so far? Almost done now. Okay, now we can make, there's not too much space between this line right here. So I don't want this red box to be that big. So I enable the border back in here just so I can say, okay, we don't need the height to be 100 pixels. If I get rid of the height of 100 pixels, and if I get rid of the height of 80 pixels on row right and row left, now it's like this. Okay, cool. So the height will now automatically be whatever content is in there. So let's give row a border bottom. Instead of a border everywhere, it's just gonna be a border bottom. Oh, shortcut for what? To comment out. So I just highlight the lines that I want to comment out, or if I just click on the line that I want to comment out, and then if you're on Mac, it's command and question mark at the same time. On Windows, it's control and question mark at the same time. So in order to comment out the height, I just put my cursor on this line, command question mark. But the height is still like this, even though I got rid of the height 100 pixels, right? It was bigger. I got rid of the height 100 pixels, but its child, row left and row right, they have a height of 80 pixels. If I put the purple back in, you can see the purple box makes it tall still. So I get rid of the height of the child as well in the border. And if I want to make it border bottom, I could do that. So I can have a border only on one side. Just like right here, there's a border only on one side, but maybe I could have some padding on the bottom, right? Let's make this back to border again. So there's some cushion between this bottom border and all this stuff. There's some cushion right here. So that cushion, I'm going to do padding bottom. Okay, cool. And then I'm going to turn this to border bottom. Now it's red, and then I'm going to make this black. Actually, hold on. Yeah, this border is going to be not just for this row, it's going to be for this whole div. Actually, I want this actually. So I don't even want that border. Sorry, I don't even want that border. I can get rid of that. Get rid of this padding. I actually want this box to be shorter, and that box is going to be the info box. So info box height. Let me just get rid of the height now because I have content in here, and then I can add padding to the bottom. Let's do 30 pixels. Perfect. And then I can only have the border only on the bottom. Perfect. Now it's going all across here. Let's make it thicker. Let's do like 3 pixels. Okay. Cool. Even though Facebook actually has it thinner. So let's go ahead and make it 1 pixel. Okay. And then last but not least, the nav bar at the bottom here. This should be reviewed from yesterday. So what we're going to do is we're going to have, think about it in terms of boxes. Yeah, we can have a UL. Perfect. Good. Good. Yeah. Good stuff, Kevin. We can have a box here first. And that box can actually be the UL. But actually, let's think about it. For this particular box in purple, how many more boxes can we put inside of it? How can we arrange this into other boxes? Yeah, good. I can see 2 boxes here. I can put all this into 1 box right here. That could be the UL, this small box on the left, and then a button right here. And then justify content, space between. Perfect. Okay. We're almost done. Look at that. Looks like Facebook, doesn't it? All right, let's do it. Let's continue. And yeah, align items center. Yeah, it looks like they're centered as well. Yeah, good job, Giovanni. Yep, you guys are doing good. You guys are doing all this hard work translating here. And that participation, that's how you get even more out of a lecture. So good job. So it's going to be after the info div. So I'm going to click on the info div to see where it ends. It ends in line 32. So I'm going to go after that. And I'm going to create a div.nav bar. That's going to be the whole row right here. And then I'm going to have a UL. So I'm going to have a UL for this side and then a button for this side. So there's the UL and then the button that just has 3 dots. So there's the button with 3 dots and here's the UL. The UL needs to have posts, about, friends, photos. Posts. I could make them links, but I'm not gonna do that first time. Actually, I'll make them links. Posts, and then I forgot those other ones. About, friends, photos, videos. About, friends, photos, videos. Friends, photos, videos. Check-ins and more. Ooh, look at this little triangle thing right here. Okay, so check-ins and more. And I'll show you guys how to get the triangle thing later, but let's just baby step it. Let's do what we do know from yesterday. So in order to better see things, I have this UL and I have this button. This UL is all this stuff, and the button is right here. The UL is a block element, so it's not going to let the button be next to it. So the UL and the button are not being next to each other. So who am I targeting? So the UL and the button are not playing well together. Who's their parent? Nav bar. Perfect. So I'm going to go to nav bar here. Hashtag nav bar. First of all, I'm gonna give a border. Something red just so I can see it. Hashtag nav bar. Did that not work? It didn't work. Why did it not work? I used hashtag nav bar. Yeah, I made it a class, right? I'm just gonna make it ID because it's the only nav bar I have. Okay, cool. Now I see the red border, and there's plenty of space for them to play next to each other. So I'm gonna need the UL and the button to be side by side. Perfect. Line items center. That's gonna be vertically. They're gonna center these two. Okay, but the UL itself has its own children that are not playing nicely together. So what else do we need to flex? These LIs need to be side by side. The UL needs to be side by side. Perfect. So I'm going to target the nav bars UL. I could give this UL an ID, like ID equal to nav links if I want to. Let's do that. Hashtag nav links. Hashtag nav links. Display flex. Now those links are going to be side by side, and I got to get rid of the bullets. So list style is none. Okay, and I need the button and the UL to be spread out. I need the button and the UL needs to be spread out. So what am I targeting to tell the UL and the button to space away from each other? UL and the button are the elements. Navbar, good. So I'm gonna say navbar. Navbar is their parent. So navbar, justify content space between. Okay, and then for the UL though, right here, this is the UL, which is nav links. Which is nav links. I want the LIs to have, I don't want them to like be spaced between or anything, but I just need some space, So I could do a gap. I could do a gap to each LI. So I could just target the UL to have a gap for its children. Okay. Almost there. And then what else do we need? We're almost there, right? Oh yeah, maybe I can have some padding for this whole red box. There's some padding right here. So that's the nav bar. Okay. And then the nav links, let me get rid of, well, these actual anchor tags. So I'm going to target any anchor tag that is inside of nav links. But let me ask you this, are the anchor tags direct child of the nav links? No, right? I see a question. To clarify, gap only affects in between the elements, right? Correct, Emilio, yep. So if I do a gap on the parent, its children are going to have gaps between them. So each LI will have a gap in between. So I got to target the parent. Or I could also do a margin right to each LI. So each LI has a margin right. That's another way to do it. Perfect. Cool. So does a gap give left margin? No. It just gives margin between the elements. So right here for post, it's not going to get a left one. But this space here is because of the padding that I applied to this red box. So if I want to target all the anchor tags that are inside of the nav links, if I do hashtag nav links A, this is saying target any anchor tag that's a direct child of nav links. But anchor tag is not a direct child of nav links. So this is not going to work. If let's do an exaggerated color. Red, right? It's not going to work. But if I get rid of this, this is saying target any anchor tag that is a child, grandchild, great-grandchild, you name it. It don't matter. As long as it's a descendant, then it works, right? So let me not make it red no more. What's the color? Color is gray. Gray, and then text decoration, none. Perfect. And then the word posts is blue. I can just give this an ID and make it blue. Okay, we'll do that later. Let's make this button bigger. So that button is right here. I could give this button an ID and style it, or I could just say, well, what's the parent of this button is the nav bar. So nav bar's button, hashtag nav bar button, any button that's a direct child of nav bar, padding 10 pixels, make it a little bigger. Let's give it a padding on the top and bottom 10 pixels, and maybe on the left and right 30 pixels. So it's wider. That's a little bit too much. Let's do 8 and 20. Let's do 5. Okay, cool. Okay, let's do 15. 14. Okay, cool. That's good enough for us now. And okay, cool. We're done with this. I could just give this posts an ID and make it blue. I'm not gonna do that, but let's do this more part with the triangle. So in order to add a triangle, I'll show you a cool trick. HTML. Well, I'll show you a really cool trick. How to have downward triangle in HTML. Okay, click here. There's actually HTML symbols that you can use. Symbol, this one. Okay, so how do I use this? Encoding HTML, I would have to type this in. Let's save that. I got a triangle. This triangle is too big though. I can style this triangle that's inside of another element by using a span. And maybe I'll just give this an idea of triangle. And then I'll just say hashtag triangle. And you might think I would change its height, but this, you could think of this as a font, like a text. So I would actually do font size. Perfect. Okay. All right, cool. Any questions so far before we add the cookie box? We got like 10 more minutes and we'll be done. I know this is a lot.
Real quick, just to clarify, the way I was doing my like my HTML pages and all of that was by pretty much just having I guess like the skeleton of the website. So I set up all my divs all together, and then from there I would assign if there were links, buttons, and all of that good stuff. Would you recommend keep doing that, or would you rather just have me go step by step, kind of like you were doing today, to not encounter any more problems, any bugs?
I like to do step by step, but I like to go outside in. So I'll be like, okay, let's just get this outside body working where the, you know, the color changes from gray to white. That's it. After that, I was like, okay, let me just get a box. Like, let me organize this into a box right here, where I'm just gonna have a box that's just centered, like a purple box that's centered in the outer purple box. And then I'll work my way in here. I'll be like, okay, let me just get this. And then I'll work outside in, top down. And I'm like, okay, let me just get the cover photo to work. And then let me get everything inside of this box working with the button and then the profile picture. And the profile picture was like right here. And then I had the button right here. And I was like, okay, let me just get those two working there. And then I'm like, okay, I need to move the profile picture down. and break the plane. Let me get that happening. And then I worked on the info box. And then I worked on the nav bar.
Got it. Thanks.
And this is like you plotting your blocks. It's like that plotting your blocks assignment. But like I don't plot all the blocks at once. I go the biggest blocks and then I go top down. So outside in, top down. All right, cool. You guys are doing really good. Thank you for hanging in there. I know it's a long lecture, but you guys are gonna have some deep work time. What you are using to highlight is that zoom feature or Chrome extension. It's a zoom feature. It's a zoom drawing tools. Helps with teaching a lot. So let me get rid of this border now. For the nav bar. Awesome. So we can say that we built out the Facebook profile page for now. I'm not going to build out everything else, but what I am going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a div here. What is this div? This is the container. Okay, so after the container, let's do div with a paragraph tag. I'm gonna have a bunch of text. If I type in lorem, I'll get a bunch of text. Well, that's not enough text. I want to fill up a bunch of the whole page. So let me just go ahead and copy this paragraph tag a bunch of times so I know that there's a bunch of text. Cool. Now I have to scroll down. Oh, notice the color kind of changes back to this because it is set to 100 VH right here on the body. Now I can do actually, I don't even need to give it a VH. Since I have some content here, I don't need to give a height. Initially, I had to give a height just to see it, but now I don't need to give a height anymore because the height is gonna expand to fill the content. But I just wanted to give it a bunch of content so that I could scroll up and down. So I can show you the last CSS position concept called fixed. Position fixed is best used for like cookie boxes, or those nav bars. Have you ever seen those nav bars that follow you as you scroll down? I don't know, let's see, ESPN.com maybe. Yeah, notice this nav bar right here. It just, oh, this is position sticky, but it can be used for situations like this, or also those cookie boxes. So let's take a look at a cookie box. I'm going to go ahead and create a cookie box after this div ID cookie box. And I'll have a paragraph tag. We got the cookies though. Okay. Let's take a look at here. So we got this cookie box. Let me make this box easy to see. I'm going to select the cookie box. Hashtag cookie box. Border 1 pixel, solid red. Height, let's do 100 pixels. Okay, we got this cookie box. Let me do like 3 pixels solid red. Background color, aqua. Okay, we got this cookie box. Right now, what if I want this cookie box to be right at the same position on my window, no matter where I scroll? Right now, it's only at the bottom. I got to scroll all the way to the bottom to get to it because it's all the way at the bottom. But I can use a CSS position property called position fixed in order to make this box fixed on a certain place on the screen. So if I want this box, like maybe 20 pixels from the bottom of the screen, no matter where I scroll, I can do position fixed. Position fixed. And when I do that, it kind of gets rid of it, but I need to tell it where it needs to be. So from the bottom of the screen, let's say I want it to be 10 pixels away from the bottom. There we go. I need to give it the width 100%. 100% of its parent container. Oh, that's too much. Okay. What did I do? I did a fixed width, right? 1,000 pixels. Yeah, 1,000 pixels. Okay, cool. So now, no matter where I scroll, this box is going to follow me around, and it's positioned fixed, meaning it's going to be fixed in a certain part of the screen, no matter how I scroll. And I need to tell it what part of the screen I need to have it in. So I'm saying from the bottom, have it 10 pixels up from the bottom. So there's 10 pixels of gap from the bottom. And if you want, I can also make this a little bit transparent by doing this. So now I can actually see some text underneath the cookie box. That was kind of ugly though. Let's go back to what we had. And that's position fixed. Now, what percentage of this lecture was really about position? Barely has 7. I don't know where you come up. Nice number. I like that. Yeah, barely any. And that should be a symbol to you that we don't use position too much, but only when we really need to. Okay, any questions before we break out? If you make a margin bottom 100 on the body, then it won't be in the way when you scroll to the bottom. Margin bottom on the Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Then you can actually get all the content. Yeah, yeah. Let's do a little bit more because I have extra 10 pixels here. Let's do 110. And then, yeah, Cole is like a genius. Okay, so if I don't want to have to accept the cookies, but I want to see all the content, I gave a margin bottom to the body so that there's some space on the body. So there's no content that's going to be here anyway. So when I scroll all the way down, cookie box just is right there. You're so smart, Cole. Yeah, so I used to get imposter syndrome from really smart students when I was a student. So don't worry if you didn't come up with that. But I know that there's always going to be brilliant people that are going to be more advanced. So that was really good idea here. But yeah, but if you understand all this, that's good. You don't even need to understand every single thing that we just did. Like you don't need to be able to do something this complicated yet. But this is pretty cool, right? Facebook page. And knowing that, I think this should be a breeze then. Hopefully. I mean, this is still going to be hard, by the way. But this is something that I want you guys to work on. And I want to say this assignment right here is the hardest assignment you're going to get until you get your exam. If you can do this assignment, you're going to pass the HTML and CSS portion of the exam. I'm going to do a demo on this tomorrow in the PM. I'm going to give you guys time to struggle on it. I'm going to give you guys time to get frustrated. I'm going to give you guys time to feel the discomfort of this assignment. I'm going to give you guys time to follow the 20-minute rule and ask for help on this assignment. I'm going to give you guys time in the PM to work on this assignment. There's no PM lecture. We're done with the day. I'm just going to be available for Open Lab. And Antoine's going to be here for Open Lab. So we're just going to be here to help you if you get stuck. Just follow the 20-minute rule for the rest of the day. Tomorrow, we're going to have some very simple JavaScript stuff, like for loops and things like that. Nothing too crazy. There's no core assignments related to the JavaScript portion for tomorrow. But in the PM, tomorrow, I'm going to do a demo on this from scratch. But I'm only going to do it in the PM of tomorrow after you guys get enough of the practice of trying to do this yourself in. After you get enough struggle, strength through the struggle, strength through the struggle. So after you get enough struggling in there, who knows, maybe you'll complete it without the demo, but then worst case, I'll do a demo so that you'll have a demo of this over the weekend. And yes, for today, I want you guys to work on user card and profile page. And you can use your user card code to help you with the profile page assignment. Okay, strength to struggle. Okay, that's the difference between the coding